young adults with disabilities or finish high school, there's several options for them. If you're looking for residential services for your son or daughter in Delaware, we would call the Division of Developmental Disability Services. Call and ask for an application to apply for services to see if your son or daughter meets their criteria or their eligibility. That should be done very early on when you know your child has a disability, preferably before the age of 12 or 13, before transition age, before you start thinking about transition. The Division of Developmental Disability Services in Delaware may be called something else in other states. It would be under the Health and Human Services Division. You would get a caseworker or a family support worker who would be assigned to your child, and they would help you with the decisions from there. To get connected early is really good because they have to go to the legislature to advocate for money. They have to know how many people they'll be serving. They usually do that at 5 years out. So if your child's going to graduate at 21, they should know that 5 years before that so that they're ready for that person. When you register at your developmental disability agency, you should talk to someone about long-term care and ask for someone, because if your son or daughter's needs are going to be long-term, you'll need to talk to someone who's experienced in long-term care and handling the issues that go along with aging for adults with disabilities. We also have DSAPID, which is the Division of Services for Adults and Aging with Physical Disabilities. The DDDS is looking at the intellectual level of people and the cognitive level. DSAPID, or adults with physical disabilities, is looking at long-term care and looking at just their physical disability. So if you don't have an intellectual disability and you have a physical disability, you can use their services.
Many parents who have cared for their young adult their entire life anticipate that they're going to continue caring for their child indefinitely, which is great, and that's a fine decision if that's what works for the family. It's really important, though, to think what happens when something happens to that parent. As the young adult's aging, the parent's also aging. And so it's important to think about, if I break my hip and I can no longer transport my child in and out of their wheelchair or help them up the stairs, what needs to happen? What plan do I need to have in place to guarantee my child is going to be successful when I'm no longer able to care for them?
So if you're considering residential care, especially for your son or daughter, get on the waiting list very early and contact DDDS or the disability services in your state. I know in Delaware there's a 7-year wait. It may be longer in other areas and or in other states, and it may be shorter, but just to have your name on there. If you decide later that that's not the option that you're going to consider, you can always have your name removed, but just to be on there so that you don't have to wait if something comes up. We all know that families change, and if something comes up in the family, then you have another option.
There's a continuum of services for residential care that range from facility-based care, which sometimes is called institutional care, which provides 24-hour support on-site in a location. Services and providers come into the location and provide those services to the people who live there. There's also supported residential environments, and that could be something like a shared living situation where they may be a paid roommate to help somebody out, in addition to a community group home or some kind of living situation like that, where someone is receiving supports 24/7, but there's more freedom to come and go. People leave the group home during the day for a job or for a work experience, and they come back at night and are responsible for their activities of daily living. Additionally, there's independent living, which would be somebody completely living on their own. They may have someone who's paid or not paid to come in and help them out, potentially someone to come get them out of bed in the morning and into their wheelchair, but also there's plenty of adults with disabilities who are living completely on their own, in a home of their own. They've purchased it, they're paying their own rent and mortgage, and that's a big part of empowerment, recognizing that that's an option for young adults with disabilities nowadays. Another option would be for the young adult to stay living at home with their natural family, whether with parents or with siblings, and remain in the community that they've grown up with, knowing the people and service providers that they've always known.
I would advise parents, whatever option they're considering, is to go and visit the place that they've chosen. Talk to the other people in there. I would talk to the staff, and I would introduce their son or daughter to them to see if they're comfortable. I would visit them when they don't expect me to visit them. You should look at personality matches. If it's a group home, would Bridget's personality match with the other people in the home? Sometimes we don't always think about that. A huge concern for many parents is how do they pay for their young adult support or their adult support as they get older and are ready to leave the home. Usually Medicaid and the Division of Developmental Disability Services will pay for that. DDDS in our state, or Developmental Disability Services, pays for some of it, and then Medicaid matches the state money at a certain amount. So that pays for most of it or all of it in certain cases. You would hope that if your child left school and is able to work, that they will work and be able to pay and live on their own as much as possible. And sometimes there are places where you have to pay privately out of your own money. To prepare your young adult for life in the community, you do have to have higher expectations for your child. There are a lot of things that Bridget can't do, but there are a lot of things that people can't see that Bridget can do. And we know when she's happy in the community, and we expect people to treat her like everyone else, to talk to her like everyone else. It's very difficult sometimes to think of your child as now an adult, that she once was your child and now she's your 26-year-old adult. But she still has the same wants and needs as my other children. A lot of times I'll sit there and look at her and think, I wonder what she wants in life. But I look at my other children, at what they wanted in life, and I try to give her what they wanted. There's an anger within me that what was given to my other children was not given to her, and the opportunities were not there. So I'm trying to create the opportunities. It's not a bad anger, it's a good anger, so that I'm able to get out there and try to do these things for her. I just want her to have what everyone else has in life. Bridget is nonverbal, so for her to advocate for herself means that she's at the table. So whenever we're at a meeting, I advocate for her as much as I can, but sitting her at the table shows people not to forget people like Bridget who are nonverbal and have some more severe disabilities. When she's at the table, people actually start to ask her questions. They start to understand how she answers them by her facial expressions, or I'll help her to answer someone sometimes because I know better than other people what her answers would be. Just having her at the table is advocacy. Learning to be an advocate, there are many options in many states. If you look up your independent living centers would probably be your best option. We'll have classes on them. We'll have someone that will help you. There are also councils, the Developmental Disabilities Council. Every state has a DD council. It helps you to advocate for yourself and learn from people around the table. Connecting with other parents who have the same issues that you do are very good also, and connecting people with disabilities with each other, and connecting with people in other states to see what other states are doing, and maybe you can bring that to your state. Because there's always strength in numbers and we can always learn from each other. And it's good to know that you're not the only one out there with these issues.
There are many agencies and resources and programs and foundations that people don't know about. And so I really encourage parents and young adults themselves to reach out, think outside of the box and figure, if I want this, how could I go about getting it? And don't take no for an answer. One of the best recommendations I can give is to appeal denials, to appeal it when someone says no or no you can't, and figure out there's got to be some way. You wouldn't give up on yourself. We don't want you giving up on your child. Or if you're a young adult, we don't want you to give up on yourself. We want you to say, let me overcome this, let me find the way.
I'm like, if it's on the moon, my advice to parents, find the space shuttle to get you there. Never limit yourself in terms of a resource, or if you heard about something that might be of some type of assistance to your child's health, well-being, total life, whatever it is, check it out. You have nothing to lose. Are you okay? Okay.